Heras-Casado, it's really a big opera. And if you stand there with a score, which is that big, do you already hear the ending of the opera?
Somehow I think it's inside myself, inside ourselves, even when you start the first act, which is still a long journey until you go to the end of that ceremony. You don't hear it, but somehow after you've experienced the rehearsals and of course in my own experience with the piece, the end is there, and it's the most fascinating thing to be able to build together with the musicians and my singers the tension until the end that everyone is really waiting for and expecting. And when those minutes arrive, you can feel at the same time the tension, the emotion, and the release. Say.
But it's interesting because sometimes, especially with Parsifal, I have got the idea that I still call it torture. That Wagner planned this slowness, this torturing of expectation. You always have expectations for the next harmony.
Yeah, of course.
And you sit there and think, come on, give it to me, but you don't get it. It's planned.
Of course, I mean the planning of the tension, how he let's say stretches the tension and then makes you wait until something, it's like in the first act, until the moment that they go to the temple, and then there's a clear turning point, and then from there to the end of the first act it's just sitting in that temple and admiring the glory of that spiritual moment, and it's wonderful. But he's by the end of his life, he's already a master on creating those arches.
That's it's the last opera of Richard Wagner, and as you say, one probably hears that because he has all the skills. What are the main themes for you if you have to bring an order into this music? What are the strings you're pulling? What is important for you?
For me, there are two. Well, there are many aspects, but for me, it's extremely important combining the flow of the musical discourse, dramatic discourse. In this case, it's more meditative. You have these long monologues with Anfortas as well in the first act, but Gurneman's, in which nothing happens, but there is a lot of density and content there. But to give a flow to this big structure, and at the same time to find a way in which there is an endless evolution of the textures and changing of the colors. This piece is a miracle on the orchestral color. It's very, very important. It's something fascinating because in this piece, the chromatic harmonic language, it's extreme. In some aspects more than in Tristan. In Tristan, it's never resolved here. I mean, the harmonic path, and in some moments it really approaches almost Schoenberg and the second Viennese school in his adventurous and challenging quality. But it's used more to create a never-ending world of colors and textures. On the light way, not so much like in the ring cycle, like in the ring. It's in a more, in a dark and more complex. But it's
here's this rolling in very slow tempo.
Exactly, and really taking care at every single moment on how the strings sound, the nuances between. 70% of this piece is let's say it's painted. If we think of colors. On the piano, pianissimo, more than on the loud side. So and then finding the light textures and the nuances, that is one of the challenges. And then the flow, dramatic flow, and the let's say dramaturgic flow has a different pace.
So it's not just the tempo; it's even more important the color and the texture of music. Is that what you work with the orchestra? Is that what you spend lots of time?
Absolutely, but the texture and the texture and the colors also affect the flow, and you can hear much better each word. You can really make the singer and the discourse flow in a different way. But to answer your question, with the orchestra, of course, a big deal of the work we've done together. I mean, I'm delighted, and it's one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had with an orchestra, a group of musicians, and in searching, researching, and rediscovering, and again in every single corner of the piece, colors, textures, dynamics, but also at the same time trying to get out of the piece articulations and consonants and a rhythmic work that also affects to the whole.
Absolutely.
And to bring out.
It's about this contemplation as well.
To make it less flat. But whenever there are some of the important motifs are rhythmic, and not only harmonic or melodic, but rhythmic motifs that have to come out in a light way, not in a heavy way. So, it's been for all of us a rediscovery.
And all that you have to do in this, and you have mentioned it already, in this unique pit, because it is under the stage. You have the musicians going down instead of going up. And you have the sound which evolves onto stage, there merges with the singers, and then goes back to the audience. In all other houses, the orchestra music comes to the audience and merges there with the voices, which has a delay here, doesn't it? I mean, for the singers, it has a delay. How do you cope with this problem? I saw you last year, you listened to lots of rehearsals of your colleagues.
I did.
You really had to find out about the mystery of this house?
Of course. I mean, not only I was listening to my colleagues down into the pit, out, also to find out what is the real distance, the physical acoustic distance between being inside and being outside.
So you always have to have somebody in the audience to listen for you?
Of course, that is key.
You can't rely on your ears.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very important to have a very well experienced and someone you really trust very well, that he will be, when you are down in the pit, 50% of your ears. But then the timing issue, it's also very special. You have always to conduct ahead of the singers. You have to get along these 5 hours or 6 hours, always pushing the orchestra ahead.
That's the big danger, right? In Bayreuth, to fall asleep and to.
No, absolutely not. In a piece like this one, like Parsifal, you can just be being contemplative. And hold back, but you always have to keep taking the initiative with the choir as well. I hear the choir always a little bit late, but then it's right.
Okay.
So I have to train my ear and my muscles to be always pulling the orchestra out a little bit earlier, and also for the balance. Sometimes when the singers are far deep in the stage, it's a very good acoustic for the audience, but from the pit it's very hard to hear them. So it's a lot of very special conditions that, until you haven't experienced that, even you're the most experienced or gifted conductor in the world, you have to be able to adapt to that and be conscious. But now I'm very happy and lucky that I am enjoying that. Even those circumstances, I've been enjoying that very, very much.
And that's the difficult thing, to have all these coordinates and still stand there and enjoy the music.
Yes, absolutely.
And we definitely will enjoy the music. Now we have heard, it's a very complex thing to produce this music. Aber wir freuen uns, dass wir den nächsten Aufzug von Parsifal hören werden. Ich werde Ihnen jetzt noch den Inhalt des zweiten Aufzugs erzählen und sage toi 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 für den zweiten Aufzug.
Dankeschön.
Vielen herzlichen Dank.
Dankeschön.